London at the dawn of the 19th century, a city of smoke, noise, ambition and relentless transformation, a city where coal fog clung to the streets, where the clatter of carriage wheels mixed with the shouting of street vendors, and where the very pace of life was accelerating faster than anyone had ever seen. And in the midst of this world, crowded, chaotic, brilliant and brutal, two minds emerged who would quietly, almost invisibly, ignite a revolution that would not be felt fully for nearly 2 centuries. Their names were Charles Babbage and Ada Lovelace. Their vision, nothing less than the mechanization of thought. To understand why Babbage and Lovelace mattered, we must first understand the world they inherited, a world that ran on numbers but could barely keep up with them. In the early 1800s, virtually all advanced mathematics was performed not by machines, but by people. These people were known as computers. Human beings, often poorly paid, often exhausted, worked day after day producing the tables upon which the empire depended. Navigation tables, astronomical tables, engineering tables, logarithmic tables. Their calculations guided ships, built bridges, aimed artillery, and planned trade routes, and yet they were human. They made mistakes. Some modern historians estimate that navigation errors contributed to thousands of deaths per decade, ships lost to unseen reefs, storms, or incorrect coordinates. In a time where a miscopied number could send a vessel hundreds of miles off course, accuracy was a matter of life and death. Charles Babbage was born on 26 December 1791 in 44 Crosby Row, Woolworth Road, London, a modest but respectable home in a rapidly developing district of the city. His father, Benjamin Babbage, was a banker. His mother, Betsy Plumley Teep, encouraged his curiosity. Young Charles was a sickly child, frequently bedridden. But confinement brought opportunity. He devoured books, especially those on mathematics, engineering, and philosophy. His mind grew restless, hungry. At Cambridge, he found something unexpected, not greatness, but frustration. The mathematics being taught there was outdated, stuck decades behind Europe. Babbage wanted more. Alongside John Herschel and George Peacock, he founded the Analytical Society, dedicated to reforming British mathematics. The seeds of rebellion were already there. For years, Babbage examined the tables produced by human computers and found them riddled with inconsistencies. In 1821, after yet another frustrating experience checking error-filled navigation tables, he exclaimed,
"I wish to God these calculations had been executed by steam."
And with that cry, the idea for the difference engine was born. This machine, designed in several iterations, was breathtakingly ambitious. Difference engine number 1 was intended to calculate polynomial functions automatically, eliminating the human element entirely. But Babbage didn't stop there. He imagined far more than a mechanical calculator. He envisioned an entirely automated system of computation, a machine capable of generating perfectly accurate mathematical tables, a built-in automated printer, capable of stamping results directly onto plates for mass production, a mechanical error-proofing system nearly unknown in industry at the time, sequential processing through interconnected gear trains, a method of finite differences encoded physically into cams, gears and columns. Self-acting carries, one of the earliest forms of automated arithmetic carryover. These were conceptual breakthroughs on a scale no one had seen. Imagine standing before Babbage's difference engine as it hums to life. It is not small. Difference engine number 2. built many years after Babbage's death, stands over 11 feet long, weighing 2 tons, a gleaming forest of brass. Here is what happens when it runs. A value is set on the input columns using hand cranks. As the crank turns, hundreds of gears rotate in synchrony, each representing a digit. The machine applies the method of finite differences, adding successive differences to compute polynomial values without multiplication. The mechanism automatically performs carry operations, where one column carries to the next when it exceeds 9. The computed result propagates to the result columns. Finally, a mechanical printer, Babbage's proudest innovation, presses the results onto soft metal plates using inked type or stereotyping. This printing mechanism was revolutionary. It meant that the machine not only computed the tables, it produced camera-ready plates for mass printing. The entire chain, from calculation to publication, could be completely automated. If the difference engine was extraordinary, the analytical engine was unimaginable. Charles Babbage conceived it around 1837, and even today it feels impossible. For the first time in human history, a machine was designed that could perform any calculation, execute conditional logic, store data, and follow sequences of operations. It was not a calculator, it was a general-purpose computer in the purest modern sense. The analytical engine introduced a mill, functioning like a modern CPU, a store functioning like memory input cards, inspired by Jacquard's automated looms, conditional branching, the key to modern programming logic, loops allowing repeated operations, modular, interchangeable instruction sets. These concepts predate electronic computers by more than 100 years. It was as if Babbage's mind had leapt directly into the 20th century while his body remained in Victorian London. But Babbage would not bring this idea into the world alone. Ada Lovelace was born Augusta Ada Byron on 10 December 1815 at 13 Piccadilly Terrace, London, near the edges of Hyde Park. She was the daughter of the infamous poet Lord Byron, a man of brilliance and scandal, and Lady Anne Isabella Milbanke, a woman of remarkable intellect. Ada never knew her father. Byron abandoned the family when she was only weeks old. Her mother, determined that Ada would not inherit Byron's volatility, pushed her toward mathematics, logic, and science. Tutors from across England were brought into their home. From the age of 8, Ada studied geometry, algebra, astronomy, music, and languages. She was brilliant, but she was also a woman in a world that resisted female intellect at every turn. At that time, universities barred women from study. Scientific societies excluded them. Even reading advanced mathematics as a young woman was considered unusual, sometimes improper. Yet Ada pressed on. Her curiosity was relentless. Her gift was unmistakable. By the age of 17, she was already analysing complex systems and designing conceptual machines of her own flying machines, steam-powered inventions, and symbolic notations for numerical processes. Her path inevitably would intersect with Charles Babbage. In June 1833, Ada Lovelace met Charles Babbage at a London gathering hosted by the scientist Charles Babbage, Senior Associate. Babbage demonstrated a small portion of the difference engine, his calculating engine prototype. Ada watched, entranced. She did not merely observe the machinery, she understood it. In that moment, something extraordinary happened. Two of the most visionary minds Britain ever produced recognized each other. Ada became Babbage's most insightful collaborator, not merely a translator, but a conceptual partner. When she translated Luigi Menabrea's paper on the Analytical Engine, she added notes that were 3 times longer than the original paper. These notes contained the first published computer program, an algorithm designed to be executed by a machine that would not exist for another century. To understand why Ada and Babbage's work was so revolutionary, we must return to the problem that haunted Babbage daily: human error. The British Empire depended on precise navigation. Yet, even the best human computers made mistakes copying errors, fatigue errors, arithmetic slips, navigation failures were catastrophic. Some estimates suggest that hundreds of ships were lost across the 18th and early 19th centuries, due in part to flawed data storms, misread charts, incorrect longitudes, and computational mistakes. Babbage saw a world built on unstable foundations. He believed that only machines cold, consistent, mechanical could produce accuracy on which human lives could depend. And he was right. Imagine a machine room filled with brass towers 6 feet high, gears turning in perfect synchrony, punched cards feeding through readers, and columns of number wheels clicking in place. Here is the workflow of the Analytical Engine. Program cards tell the engine what operations to perform. Variable cards supply the data. Cards are read mechanically, no electricity, only precision engineering. The mill performs arithmetic, just like a CPU. Results are moved into the store, like RAM or registers. Conditional instructions determine what happens next. Branching, loops, repeated cycles. Final results can be printed or punched out. This was not just ahead of its time, it broke time. No other mechanical system of the era even approached this level of abstraction. It was Victorian-era programming. Despite the genius of his designs, Babbage struggled endlessly with funding. Parliament granted him support but withdrew it repeatedly as political priorities shifted. Travelling constantly, he begged governments, monarchs, and institutions across Europe for backing. None committed fully. His perfectionism, expensive redesigns, and the sheer complexity of the machines made investors nervous. By the late 1842, Babbage's dream remained unbuilt. He died in 1871, believing he had failed, but history would prove him wrong. Ada's life was tragically short. She died on 27 November 1852, at the age of 36, from uterine cancer. Her final months were marked by pain, but she continued studying mathematics until she could no longer write. Her work was nearly forgotten after her death. Only in the 20th century did historians uncover the scale of her insight and realize that Ada Lovelace had written the world's first computer program. She did not live to see her ideas validated, but her legacy is etched into every digital device on Earth. More than a century passed before Babbage's machines were finally built. In 1991, to celebrate the 200th anniversary of Babbage's birth, the Science Museum in London constructed Difference Engine No. 2 using only materials and tolerances available in the 1840s. It worked perfectly. Later, a second machine, complete with the printing apparatus, was built for the Computer History Museum in California. Both models proved the same truth. Babbage had been right all along. His machines were not impossible, they were simply premature. Without Babbage and Ada, the modern world would not exist, not as we know it. Their ideas laid the foundation for digital computers, software programming, algorithms, automated manufacturing, data storage, machine logic, modern cryptography, artificial intelligence, robotics, and almost every technological system we rely on today, from smartphones to spacecraft, from banking systems to medical imaging. The entire computational universe descends from the work of two people who lived before telephones, before light bulbs, before electricity itself had found its purpose. Their ideas travelled through time, and they changed everything. Babbage died, believing he had failed. Ada died before the world could ever understand her. Both were misunderstood, underestimated, dismissed, or ignored in their time. And yet, their work became the blueprint for the information age. This is the story of brilliance unrecognised, of ideas too vast for their century. It is the story of two minds who dared to imagine machines that could think long before the world believed it possible. Their legacy reminds us that the future is often built by those the world isn't ready for, that great ideas may be ignored in their time, and that vision often requires courage, isolation, and extraordinary persistence. But most of all, it reminds us that we too are capable of seeing further, of dreaming boldly, of building things the world does not yet understand. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like more stories like this, please subscribe to Voices and Echoes for future videos.